Hey you and welcome, my name is Mike, and in this whole video, we're going to go to a remote house in the Alaskan wilderness, because there, my friends, a teen was clackety on her computer, emailing away. She was talking with some monk, wow, she had met online, and romance had been blossoming on this long-distance relationship. And guess what, this lad, he had an unusual request for her, but if she fulfilled it, millions would be hers, and so she was licking her chops. Only problem was that he wasn't exactly who he said he was. She was too stupid, though, to think about that at all. Now, let's give it a go. So our, insane story, it begins on June 2nd, 2019 in Anchorage, Alaska. It's a place we've been to a number of times for a number of killers. Always stories that make you go, what the shit? And this is not any different, my friends. You know something, folks? Violent crime across the US, it's on the decrease, broadly speaking, over the last 2 decades. Anchorage, Alaska is the exception. It has a violent crime rate 60% higher than the national average. According to law enforcement numbers, most male victims of homicide done by a stranger. For females, tends to be intimate partner. This story does not help those numbers. See, in the middle of summer, June 2nd, 2019, 19-year-old Cynthia Hoffman, known to her family as CC, failed to show up to a pre-arranged meeting with her dad, Tim Hoffman. Tim was a handyman and would often take his daughter with him as his assistant to do various jobs, now that she was finished with school. And so when she failed to show up to collect some money he owed her for work she had done for him, he immediately knew there was something wrong. But trying not to be an overprotective dad, he held off until the next morning, when she still hadn't shown up. Tim went to the police himself and reported his daughter missing, and right off the bat, when the search parties went out, Tim joined and he launched himself into trying to find his daughter. He spent several hours, riding around town, asking every single person he saw on the sidewalk, have you seen my daughter? Have you seen this girl? Filled with dread from the very beginning, it was like a sixth sense he had about his daughter, that he knew something was not right. And in fact, even though she'd only been missing for a day, at this point he came to believe she was already dead. Over the next couple of days, Tim began texting his daughter Cynthia's friends, including one named Angela, or Angel as she often went by, asking, have you heard from her? Where did you last see her? Blah, 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 blah. And Angela was texting back, I really hope you find her. She was her best friend, right? Please let me know if you find her and what I can do to help. And so the police and the investigators, they begin where they always do, right? What was Cynthia doing when she was last known to be seen? Who is she talking to? When's the last time we know she was around?
One of the last people to see Cynthia was her friend Angela, who told Cynthia's father she dropped her off here at a nearby park.
Tim last heard where his daughter had been from the same concerned friend of his daughter's, Angela, or Angel. Angela and Cynthia had been on a hike together before Angela dropped Cynthia off at Polar Bear Park in Anchorage. Angela had texted Tim shortly after to let him know where she was, and that in and of itself was a lot for Tim. Because he was like one of those dads who's like, you will always talk to me. I am your dad, you will always be in contact. If you don't answer a message or a call from me, you're gonna get the boot. So the fact that his daughter's friend was the one who was texting him, not his daughter herself, that kind of stroked him as like, interesting. And then he was texting Cynthia, he was trying to call her, all going nowhere.
When Dad calls, you answer. I don't care if you're in church and the holy pastor's preaching. I don't care if you're at school taking the high school diploma test. If Dad calls, you answer.
So on Sunday, when daughter number 3 didn't call, didn't pick up, Dad knew what dads know in their gut when their child needs them.
And unfortunately, Tim's instincts were correct. Also, Angela was not who she claimed to be at all. See, the person Tim had been introduced to by his daughter, Cynthia, the person who he'd come to know as Angela or Angel, was in fact not her. It was 19-year-old Denali Dakota Sky Bremer. Now, Tim and Cynthia were far from the only people Denali Bremer was hiding her real name from. Denali certainly had her secrets, but other things, though, she couldn't help but share. See, Denali also told her boyfriend, long-distance guy though, a guy named Tyler, I guess he called himself. Denali called him Babe, but Tyler called Denali Angel. That's the only way he knew her. Now, despite this long-distance relationship, she was in Alaska, he was in the middle of America, romance found a way to blossom beautifully so, and the two considered themselves to be in a relationship for a few weeks. It was Angela's mother who later approached the police, telling them that her daughter and friend knew where to find Cynthia. See, when Angela had told her the full story, she didn't believe her. It was too crazy. But then she saw the news of missing Cynthia. Don't worry, I'll get to her story in a second, folks. The body of Cynthia Hoffman was found on June 4th, 2019, 2 days after she was supposedly dropped off at Polar Bear Park by Angela. The 19-year-old's body was found on the banks of the Eklutna River, not far from Thunderbird Falls, a popular trail route along the river canyon leading to a 200-foot waterfall. Cynthia had been shot once, execution style, her hands still bound behind her back, wrapped with duct tape.
We're still investigating to find out exactly why she was bound and then why she ultimately was shot.
The only thing I can imagine is she was yelling her daddy's name. And it goes through my head over and over and over again.
Police say Cynthia's resistance to whatever her and her friends were mixed up in likely got her killed. Shot, then tossed in the river after she panicked and threatened to call police. Threatened to call for help.
This time I couldn't keep my daughter safe. I feel that I let her down. Because I keep all my kids safe.
The same day Cynthia was found, Denali Bremer and her friend, 16-year-old Caden McIntosh, were called in for interviews. See, officers were very keen to speak to Denali, A, about why are you telling people your name is Angela when we know you as Denali, and B, what's the deal with the whole story you told Mom? Care to elaborate? Caden McIntosh, the 16-year-old boy, he was not a boyfriend, just a friend. He immediately broke and confessed to murdering Cynthia Hoffman there. Denali Bremer, though, she had another story, right? She initially said that she tried to push the blame onto Caden McIntosh, right? She said the three of them, herself, Denali Bremer, Cynthia Hoffman, and Caden McIntosh, all of them had gone out to Thunderbird Falls. They were hanging out, they were having a good time. And you know what? They were going to play a little gag. They were going to take photos of each other wrapped with duct tape, right? That old one. However, after they innocently wrapped up Cynthia, Caden all of a sudden took a gun from Denali, she had been carrying a gun for some reason, and then executed Cynthia by shooting her in the back of the head for kind of no reason whatsoever. And Denali was obviously mind blown by this, she was freaking out, but she kind of just went along with it because she was afraid Caden would murder her too, for the exact same reason he had just murdered Cynthia. No reason at all.
16-year-old has been charged with the murder. The victim, 19-year-old Cynthia Hoffman, was killed on Thunderbird Falls Trail on June 2nd. According to the findings from the investigation, Hoffman went to the trail with 16-year-old Caden McIntosh and a friend later identified as Denali Bremer. The three walked to a riverbank where Hoffman was reportedly bound with duct tape to pose for pictures. Investigators say that after an altercation, McIntosh shot Hoffman in the back of the head, pushed her body into the river, and fled with Bremer.
But that old story was quickly thrown under the bus when the police had a look at Denali Bremer's phone, which horrifyingly and terrifyingly and all those other adjectives you can think of, it not only revealed that she had killed him and participated in the murder and recorded her saying, "Oh, look what we just did," it also revealed why they had murdered Cynthia. This story is about people, not being who you really think they are. Being someone on a chat room, and then when the truth is revealed, oh boy, they're not exactly that. That can happen to you, Your personal and private information can get to places it really should get. You'd be shocked by how much strangers out there on the internet know about you. I'm serious. Ever find your information getting leaked? Getting weird emails and spam after spam after spam and thinking, who the heck has my email address? And what else do they know about me? The internet is the Wild West, and out there are data brokers that will sell your sensitive information to scammers, spammers, and anyone else who might want to target you. I'm talking shady banks, insurance companies, predatory lenders, etc. You never know. Anything someone might want to know about you? Maybe they already do. Personally, I've been using today's sponsor, Aura, for over a year. Aura gives me a heads up for which data brokers are selling my information and automatically submits opt-out requests for me. I don't even need to think about it. It not only reduces my spam, it also protects me from any dang dirty trolls out there who might want to access my sacred, beautiful information. Not today, pal. I don't know if you saw this, but AT&T revealed that over 73 million customer records, both existing and former customers, were released on the dark web. They recommend those affected use strong passwords, monitor account activity, and consider credit freezes or fraud alerts from credit bureaus. Well, Aura does all of this for me too. And best of all, I don't have to download several different apps just because a company couldn't keep my data secure. If my info was compromised in the AT&T data breach, I wouldn't worry, because Aura is always on, always doing the hard work of keeping me safe. So let Aura do the hard work of keeping you safe online this very day. And if you sign up right now, Aura will give you a 2-week free trial with my link. That is aura.com/that chapter. Aura has an A+ BBB rating and is highly rated in the Apple App and Google Play stores. So, guess what? You know they're going to take really good care of you. Once again, go to aura.com/that chapter and honestly be horrified by how much of your private information is out there in the Wild West. But Aura has your back and keeps you safe. Now, let's get back to it. A Snapchat video on Denali Bremer's phone showed her apparently confessing to the murder. The video was enough for detectives to call her back in the next day. And Denali's resolve that, oh no, I didn't do any of this, didn't do any of that kind of shit. Her resolve lasted right up until the moment she was confronted with the truth about her babe, Tyler. See, Denali was speaking to this Tyler, right, who she had listed in her phone as babe. And Tyler was telling Denali, you know, they'd been in a relationship for a couple of weeks and he said he was a millionaire, if you can believe that, right? Not too shabby. He's a millionaire living in Kansas. In addition to making the hairs on the back of their neck stand up, the conversations between the two would give the police all the answers and evidence they needed. The conversations between Denali and Tyler began fairly normally, up until a couple of weeks before, when they suddenly took a very disturbing turn. See, Tyler revealed to Denali he had some very, eclectic, unique, I'd say, unique desires and tastes. Probably have a good idea where this is gonna go. Tyler was so rich that he was willing to pay some serious cheddar cheese to have his fantasies become reality. Specifically, he was looking to pay someone $9 million to sexually assault and kill a young girl. Denali, whew, boy, she was licking her chops at that very big number, and so plan was hatched.
Hello YouTubers, I am Dragonhawk Mark 7. I am here to show you the homemade M9 slide. So, M9 plastic slide.
Detectives interviewed another friend of Denali Bremer's, 19-year-old Caleb Leyland. Leyland told them he knew about the $9 million offer from Tyler, and he had agreed to lend Denali his car in return for $500,000 of the eventual bounty she would receive. This Caleb knew full well what they were planning on doing, what they were going to do, that Cynthia was the victim of this murder plot, but he was like, whack away. And so, between May and June of 2019, Denali Bremer, Caden McIntosh, and Caleb Leyland, they became this little murder conspiracy plot to murder one of their good friends, Cynthia Hoffman, in exchange for $9 million. There had also been 2 other unnamed juveniles who've been involved in the murder plot. They've never been named because they were underage at the time. This was not spur of the moment, this was premeditated for months, and they knew exactly what they were going to do and how they were going to do it. On June 2nd, 2019, the plan was put in motion when Denali Bremer invited Cynthia Hoffman to join her and Caden McIntosh for a hike. Bremer drove the 3 of them up to a trail near Thunderbird Falls in Caleb Leyland's car. Once there, they split off from the common trail and followed a different route along the banks of the river. At one point, McIntosh pulled a gun on Hoffman, and he and Bremer tied Hoffman's hands behind her back using duct tape they'd taken with them. Caden McIntosh then put the 9mm handgun to the back of her head and shot Cynthia once, killing her instantly. Her body was then thrown into the river. After the murder, Bremer and McIntosh burned several of Cynthia's possessions, including some of her clothing, her purse, and even her cell phone. Then Denali sent a text to Cynthia's dad, Tim, telling him they dropped Cynthia off in Polar Bear Park, also known as Russian Jack Springs Park in Anchorage. Shortly after, Denali also tried to delete her conversations with Tyler, Babe, from her phone. Throughout the entire murder, the entire ordeal, Denali was continually sending videos, messages, pictures over Snapchat to Tyler. The two were in contact the entire time, and during the whole murder, while they were walking out, while they had Cynthia duct taped up, Tyler was Snapchatting back, do this, do that. Though he was physically hundreds of miles away, there was absolutely no doubt he was equally as responsible for what had happened. At least part of the plan seems to have changed along the way, though, as thankfully there was no evidence to show that Cynthia Hoffman was ever sexually assaulted. So now you have 5 youths arrested in Alaska: Denali Bremer, Caden McIntosh, Caleb Leyland, and the 2 who can't be named because they were underage, for the murder of Cynthia Hoffman. And then one Tyler, babe, all the way in Kansas. And then, of course, the twist. Right? Well, there's a few. The police, using the phone number of Babe, right, were able to link that phone number to an address. It wasn't like a burner phone or anything like that. The address showed up, if you can believe it, in Indiana, not Kansas. Lying bastard. It would then also lead them to not any Tyler, to a Darren Schill Miller of New Salisbury, Indiana. I guess he does look sort of different than he did in the pictures he sent to Denali. Wonder if she was surprised when she saw, how he really looked. Darren was 21 years of age, a graduate of North Harrison High School in Indiana. In school, he was described as very shy, someone who was bullied, and since graduating, he had no employment history. So, this would come as a surprise to Denali, I guess, when he was revealed, because, well, if you squint, I guess they kind of sort of look the same. More! So yeah, he stole those pictures off someone else, some random guy he found on the internet, hence why I pixelated them, of course. Sorry, guy. By the way, funny coinky-dink, Alaska is the #1 state in the entire US of A where people are most likely to fall prey to romance fraud. Yes, Alaska, #1 catfish state. Come on, guys, I know there's not much to do up there, but please do your research. After the truth had been revealed to her, Denali seemed to go all in with the prosecution to cut a deal. It was also more than likely she was driven just as much by spite for Darren Schill Miller after realizing he had deceived her. And also, guess what? He also wasn't a millionaire, if you can believe that.
I know what I did was wrong.
Denali trying to cut a deal, I don't think it had anything to do with having a guilty conscience, because I don't think she has one. Denali told the authorities that she and Darren Schill Miller, as Tyler, had been in an online relationship for months, and she truly believed him to be who he said he was. A millionaire from Kansas. She's pretty stupid. And the request from Tyler to murder, that wasn't the only request Darren had sent, because he's a real sick SOB. Denali told them that Tyler had also instructed her to sexually assault 2 children. One being aged 14 years old, the other only 8 years old. Court documents showed that Denali had gone through with it. In fact, that was a real problem for Darren. He was known as a real sick bastard. It was like an open secret even in his own home that he liked them young. So Darren Schill Miller was picked up by the feds before eventually being extradited for trial in Alaska, and he readily admitted to the whole thing. He'd intentionally catfished Denali, who he knew as Angel, and solicited her to kill her supposed best friend. The pair had been planning to kill Hoffman for 3 weeks before the murder took place. He also confessed to being in contact with Bremer all the way through the crime, as well as receiving several pictures and videos created throughout.
There's a takeaway at this point. It's that for all the good the internet can do, it can be a very dark place. And parents would be wise to monitor the activity of their children online.
Local, state, and federal officials are calling the crime heinous and shocking, and their response, aggressive teamwork.
If you're listening to my voice, not in Alaska, but somewhere else, and you're sitting in your mom's basement, and you're planning to do some type of crime, influence, plan, or conduct a crime in Alaska, and you think you're safe because you're that far away, you're not. We will track you down, we will find you, and we will bring you back here to face justice.
If that wasn't messed up enough, get this, right? He even admitted to the police when he was taken back to Alaska that after the murder of Cynthia, himself and Denali, who, still believed he was Tyler at the time, had briefly discussed killing other people after they killed Cynthia. And he said that if she didn't kill more people, he was using blackmail. He was like, hey, guess what? I'll just tell him he killed Cynthia. So, kill some more folk for me, please. Thankfully, she was arrested. They were both arrested before this could go any further. So, Denali's motive for the murder of her best friend was money, the $9 million she believed she was going to get. His motive, he's a troll, shits and giggles. That's it. Alaskan authorities indicted Shill Miller, Bremer, and McIntosh on a variety of conspiracy and murder charges, as well as, child pornography charges for Bremer and Shill Miller. The two juveniles whose names have not been made public were also indicted, along with Shill Miller, Bremer, and McIntosh. Their role in the crime isn't quite as clear, though it seems they weren't present when the murder took place. They were aware of what was happening, but not directly involved. Now, since the news broke, plenty of people have had lovely things to say about Cynthia. She was, by all accounts, a great person with a really bright future ahead of her. The only thing she was guilty of was being too trusting to someone she believed was her best friend. Darren Shill Miller, on the other hand, the complete opposite, a real piece of shit. Former classmates would tell local news how odd he was and that they found it, when they found out what he was into, nobody was completely surprised.
I don't think anybody thought he would ever kill anybody, but the child pornography, definitely. He had a problem there.
Jaden Poley went to middle school and high school with Shill Miller, and she told KTUU he'd had a reputation for being a little off, and increasingly, a little creepy.
He's asked numerous girls from my high school for pictures of their kids.
KTUU found numerous online profiles for Shill Miller spanning many years across multiple social media platforms. The common theme, a strong desire to find friends and connect with women.
Dozens of young girls came forward, revealing that Shill Miller had been actively soliciting explicit photographs from people who were way too young in the years leading up to the crime. He was known to relentlessly ask for bikini pictures from women, relentlessly ask young mothers for diaper pics.
She said at one point, using the name Austin, Shill Miller confessed, quote, "I have a problem I want to tell someone and I don't know how." And he then asked for pictures, she said, of her daughters during diaper changes as a condition of revealing the secret. Arnold caught on and cut things off.
And he was also known to be catfishing, like to catfish people in his local area, to try and get explicit pictures from them. I guess it's like they obviously knew it was him. Denali Bremer, it seems, was the only person stupid enough to believe his catfishing.
The court should find that Miss Bremer engaged in one of the most serious crimes that we have in Alaska. She executed Cynthia Hoffman in a murder-for-hire plot. She conspired with numerous other individuals in and outside of Alaska, including juveniles, forever altering everybody's life. She may not have pulled the trigger, but this never would have happened if it weren't for Denali Bremer.
Denali Bremer pleaded guilty to murder in the first degree. In February 2024, she was sentenced to 99 years in prison.
The hurt I caused you and your family, I can never rectify in any way. I understand it hurts. You lost a precious child, and the community lost a daughter as well. I am truly sorry for my role in your loss.
Cade McIntosh, who was only 16 at the time but charged as an adult and admitted to being the actual triggerman, also accepted a plea deal and is awaiting sentencing, but is expected to be given a life sentence. Caleb Leyland, whose car was allowed to be used during the murder, he'll be sentenced in June of this year, 2024. And as for Darren Shill Miller, now aged 25, he pleaded guilty to soliciting the murder of Cynthia Hoffman.
Darren Shill Miller never spoke at his sentencing hearing. Instead, his attorney read a letter in which Shill Miller acknowledged what he did to Cynthia Hoffman, known as Cece, was wrong.
Every single day since the death of Cece, I have felt extremely horrible and wanted to apologize as well.
But the state showed little compassion for his tears or the fact that Schillmiller had been diagnosed with a low IQ, saying he was smart enough to fool Denali Bremer online and manipulate her to carry out the murder.
He convinced her that he was a 20-year-old, good-looking young man that had won the lottery, had millions of dollars, and he used that money to dangle in front of her and get her to do whatever he wanted.
He too was sentenced to 99 years in prison.
Frankly, Mr. Schillmiller enjoyed it.
He could have given him as few as 5 years, but gave him 99 to serve.
And there you have it, a really horrible case full of flyers and snakes and, well, catfish. I guess that's literally what this is, the catfishing murder of Cynthia Hoffman. Of course, extremely sad for Cynthia, by all accounts a great person whose only crime was, believing that her best friend would just suddenly murder her, which I think we can all be guilty of not having that thought. But there you go. And then you get Darren Schillmer, who's like the opposite, end of the scale. Real piece of shit. Sick bastard. There's a lot of adjectives you can use here, folks. Denali and Darren, the worst people imaginable, and now, especially for Darren, he's in the worst place imaginable. Thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot to me, folks. I appreciate you being here. Hope you enjoyed this old video. And you know what? The next video will be up in a couple of days, so look forward to that. As always, if you're looking for more stories, please check out the That Chapter podcast, which you can find on all podcast platforms. But until then, you know what? Just take care of each other and yourselves. Because I love you. Like you.